Hello everyone. This week I will be discussing the article There Are 5 Sides to Every Story, Which Are You Missing? By Lori L. Silverman. Some key terms to know from this article, the first being story, given by Karen Diaz of the National Storytelling Network, defines story as an act of communication that provides people with packets of sensory material that allow the listener to quickly and easily internalize the material, understand it, and create meaning from it. This approach broadens the definition of what a story is to encompass the all-over meaning of an organization as it pertains to its employees and customers. Also, 5 practices surrounding the use of stories. 1 being finding stories, 2 digging into stories, 3 selecting stories, 4 crafting stories, and 5 embodying stories, which I will get to in the later slides. The purpose of the study was to dig deeper into stories and narratives within organizations and to prove that storytelling has a strategic importance far beyond mere entertainment, proving that successful storytelling corresponds directly with an organization's ROI, or return on investment. Okay, so back to our key terms, the first being finding stories. For a story to exist, there needs to be a listener who behaves in an appreciative rather than an active manner, someone who can evoke stories by using prompts like tell me about a time when, or how did you handle the situation. These prompts, I'm sure all of us have heard them in interviews. They bring out stories instead of just having a direct answer. The next key term is digging into stories. This is collecting stories rather than just specific answers from focus groups or participants or interviewees, and identifying meaningful hidden themes within and across them, which correspond more efficiently with storytelling. Digging into stories may also bring up unknown issues, concerns, or problems, as well as tactical knowledge. Companies may also identify dominant story narratives, which can help better understand the values and the changes that need to be made within an organization. So the third key term is selecting stories. This is determining the criteria for which to build a story upon that will reinforce inside and outside values of the organization. Questions like, what is it that an organization is trying to accomplish? And what are the core values that you want to portray within your organization? How do we want to maybe highlight our strengths and downplay our weaknesses are also great and important questions when trying to find a deeper meaning of a story. The fourth key term is crafting stories. All stories have a pattern. They have a beginning that establishes the context and hooks the listener, a middle that showcases the conflict, and an ending that brings resolution to the situation and provides a lesson, a moral, or a key point. The meaning of the story needs to come from those closely involved with it. With this identified meaning, listeners will still draw their own conclusions of the story, so it's important to think on both sides of the fence to stray away from confusion. The fifth key term is embodying stories. Storytelling in person is one way of embodying a story. Silverman also describes symbolism as a great way to embody a story, having some sort of tangible object that people can refer to that provides a vehicle by which a story can travel and self-perpetuate. Silverman gives a great example of this in her article. She describes a conference that she went to, and there was an empty chair in the front of the room where the speaker was talking, and she kept wondering why there was this empty chair in the front of the room. She asked a few people around her, and it turns out that the empty chair was for their deceased CEO of their company. And so through this empty chair, she learns about the CEO's past and what he had done for the company. So this chair indefinitely perpetuates stories. Laurie Silverman conducts very in-depth interviews conducted with more than 170 business leaders in 80-plus organizations throughout the world. These interviews were conducted for her book, Wake Me Up When the Data is Over: How Organizations Use Stories to Drive Performance. It was also inferred from the review that Silverman also conducted workshops that business leaders went to better understand the criteria and the goals of their organization. The rationale for Silverman's study is to better understand how organizations can succeed in branding, public relations, internal employee communications, and even how to appeal to investors. Silverman's review tackles the in-depth understanding of stories and how to retrieve them via audio, video, etc., and then how to use them successfully with recurring symbols and values. Some examples of brands using stories is the Bud Light Up for Whatever campaign and the FedEx campaign using the movie Castaway to create brand association with the award-winning movie. Some implications of storytelling may be that listeners will be drawing their own conclusions from an organization's story. Organizations need to be careful when it comes to this and conscious of the unintended consequence that may come from the meanings associated with their story. This Silverman goes on to describe that the stories that may be lurking in the shadows are also the ones that need to be told the most to unveil any uncertainty about the organization and to basically get everything out on the table. Specific data of ROI is also hard to detail in storytelling. Organizations don't have the time or the resources to promote their story, and if they don't, it's hard to understand specific returns on their efforts. While many organizations did not systematically collect data to show the success rate of their storytelling, all have seen positive results. 36% have experienced positive financial impact to the bottom line through increased growth, profitability, and/or increased funding. 18% have noted that stories have moved them closer to furthering specific organizational goals. And 17% have reported increased levels of engagement between people and the organization and/or higher levels of teamwork. This concludes my presentation. Thank you all for listening, and have a great day.